Hey Oliver, I wanted to leave you some feedback on your film review. I think that this could be a good review in that you have some pretty clear points of analysis, right? Um, in each of your paragraphs. Uh, and I think the thesis itself, it's almost there, and I think that it could be quite interesting to work from. Um, I do think a lot of the ideas at this point are underdeveloped, but there's enough here that I know that you can expand on it. I should have let off at this point. I'm excited that you're writing about this movie. I love the Coen brothers in general. Um, they I don't I don't I've seen most of their movies and they've never disappointed me. And The Big Lebowski is a film I try to rewatch once a year or so. So let's get in here and see how you might think about expanding and clarifying some of these ideas. So you start off with this point that nothing is so inspiring and hilarious as The Big Lebowski. It shows us everything we don't expect in a movie. So what do you mean by that? So what do we expect from movies, right? And then how does The Big Lebowski turn that on its head, right? Does that make sense? So I like these ideas, but I'm not quite sure what you mean yet. And identifying this, right, thinking more deeply about what you mean here, I think can give you a way to kind of clarify and expand some of the ideas that you already have. So you give us some bare bones plot points here, and you say, despite his undesirable character, you end up with a respect for the dude and his wisdom. I wouldn't say and here. I would say as you realize there's much to be learned from him. Um, I think I would probably end it there, right? Because it seems like what you're trying to do, at least in this idea, is use the dude, the character of the dude, as your point of analysis, right? As your criteria for analysis. So if you think about how you could use his character as a way to unpack how you feel about the film, I think that that would be a really good way to unpack this movie. I am gonna ask you, however, to rethink how you've organized your ideas. I think it makes more sense to start with the plot and the other characters. And so if you think about summarizing the plot, right, that will help us understand the dude in a little bit more depth. And then you can think about how his interactions with Donnie and Walter help us understand that there's much to be learned from him. And how Sam Elliott's character helps us along the way, um, to understand that we're supposed to be learning from the dude, even though he appears to be someone that, you know, if we met him on the street, we probably at first glance wouldn't have a lot of like respect for him, right? Just at first glance, right? And you might set up how like even the opening scenes um play with our expectations, right? Because I think like the first moment that we're introduced to him, isn't he writing a check at the grocery store for like 87 cents? Like he does it, right? So he can buy his cream for his White Russians. So that's something to kind of play around with, and I think would tie back into this idea. Um, so in terms of the paragraph organization, I'd like you to consider talking about plot first, then probably the friends, and then the screenplay, and then and then the cinematography, right? How it was shot. So you have good claims in here, but they're a little underdeveloped. So you say that the acting was phenomenal. The characters embodied their characters very well, and then you give us some general ideas, but they don't, these are more like descriptions of the characters rather than the acting itself, right? So you might think about how does Walter, for example, like embody that disgruntled Vietnam vet, right? So think about his haircut, his glasses, that vest he always wears, what he always says. He is triggered by absolutely everything. And then how Donnie is, kind of that lovable goofball who's always out of it. He's always a space ghost. So how does Steve Buscemi, for example, embody that character? And then through all this, right, how does the dude still manage to be a good friend to both of them, even though they're both driving him absolutely crazy? And in Walter's case, really kind of makes the dude's situation worse. So, in short, I think that you have some good working ideas. I want you to rethink your organization and think about how you can more clearly build those points of analysis with stronger evidence. I think it could be a really good film review. And I think that if you really think about what you mean here and connect it to this idea, I think that you're going to find a way to unpack these ideas in more depth. All right. Thanks.